Welcome to the Digital DJ Tips podcast. This is an inside track edition, and that means we're looking at 3 burning issues in the DJ world this month that have been discussed in our DJ community. So this show covered beat grids. New AI beat gridding algorithms mean that you don't need to prepare your music in the way that you've had to all this time since the age of digital began, which could be a game changer for a lot of DJs. It's already starting to arrive in software. So we look at what's changed. We also looked at the audio engineering side of the skill set of a DJ. What do you need to know about audio editing and about processing audio apart from your DJ software? Why is it worth learning some of these skills? And we had a discussion about motorized jog wheels. Are they important in this age where the music doesn't really require you to have a spinning platter to control it? Why do some people still go for it despite the extra expense and weight of the equipment? As ever, we had our students with us in the recording, which meant there was lots of valuable feedback from students throughout what you are about to hear. And just to remind you, this is paid for by Digital DJ Tips' school students. There's no advertising in this podcast, and it is not sponsored in any way. So if you enjoy it, please do give us a 5-star review on your platform. You ready to get started? Let's go. The first question today is all around what we've called the death of beat gridding. So are beat grids dying? We're going to remind you what beat grids are, if you're listening to this intrigued, but also talk about a new development that has prompted this question, this time in the DJ calendar. And the thing that's prompted it is that a couple of pieces of DJ software have added a feature which is totally changing the way these things are done. And you won't be surprised to hear that AI is involved. But let's backtrack a little bit and talk first about this thing, beat gridding. What is it? Why do DJs do it? And why is it dying? So beat grids came about when DJ software came about. And it was the manufacturer's attempt to allow DJs to do something quite clever, which is called beat sync. So beat sync is where you press a button and it does all that difficult stuff. All the stuff that DJs with vinyl records used to spend years getting right. I spent years getting it right. Speeding up and slowing down the tunes and starting them again and lining up the beats and getting it so that you can blend them seamlessly. And many years ago when these features started to appear, DJs got a little bit angry that it was suddenly so easy to do. You could just press a button and it would work. But the reason it would work is that the software attempted to put a grid over the track. So you loaded a piece of music, a digital music file, into your DJ software, and the software put its own grid over that file, and it tried to line up the lines of its grid with the beats of the song. And not like every beat, there wasn't a line on the kick drum and then one on the snare and one on the hi-hats, and it was a pulse, right? If you listen to any song, there's a pulse underneath it, isn't there? There's like kind of thud, thud, thud. You can feel the beat of the song, you can feel the underlying rhythm. And it tried to put a grid over the track that showed you where that rhythm was. And then when you pressed the infamous sync button in your DJ software, it took the currently playing track and it took the track you were playing alongside it, and it lined up those auto grids, hopefully also lining up the tracks and the beats. So when you mixed them together, they sounded great and you didn't have to do anything. So it was quite a cool feature. And it not only lined up the beats, but often the bars of music. So if you're into music, you'll know that music comes in bars where each bar has got 4 beats, and so on and so on. So this wasn't only actually a godsend for using the button that syncs 2 tracks up, but also for loops. So you could press a button and get a loop that would be, say, 4 beats. And that loop would rely on these grids that the software had added, because the software's not actually listening to the song every time you load it. It's just looking at its own grids. Things like cue points. So in DJing, cue points are the markers you put on your track so you can move around the track quickly using buttons. Again, they would always be bang on a beat because you've used the grids to get them there. And things like effects, like echoes and effects that require knowledge of where the beats lie in the track in order to stay in time. So look, these are really useful things. And so this thing called beat gridding arrived, which allowed all these things to work. It was a bit of a a dual thing for DJs, because on the plus side, wow, all these new features. But on the minus side, one thing you don't have to do with a vinyl record is load it into software and start messing around with grids and things like that. There's no maths involved. You put the record on the turntable and you learn the thing before you go and DJ with it. But now DJs would have 10, 20 new songs and they'd have to check all these grids. And back in the early days, there were actually services who would grid your songs for you. You'd actually pay them to put these grids onto your songs. Now, that was what I would call the 1.0, Beatgridding 1.0. So these early systems in early DJ software could only handle electronic music that was made with a drum machine, so that the beat stayed exactly the same. The tempo didn't change, like one tiny bit from beginning to end of the song. And even then they got them wrong sometimes. They tended to get the beats double. So let's say the beat was 120 beats a minute, which is kind of a classic house disco tempo. It might say it's 140, or it might say it's 60, which is exactly half or double, right? So it would possibly do that, or it would guess the first beat wrong. So there might be a drum roll before the first beat hits, and it'll hear the drum roll and put the first beat at the beginning of the drum roll and not at the end when the actual first beat of the song proper hits. So these were quite easy to correct, but it took a bit of work. This was Beatgridding 1.0. So then Beatgridding 2.0 arrived. So this was a little bit more exciting. This was called flexible or elastic beatgridding. And in elastic or flexible beatgridding, well, the DJ software was listening a little bit harder to the music. And so it was making better guesses. And so if you had songs that were roughly the same pulse, the same tempo all the way through, but they were played by a real drummer, disco, funk, soul, old rock, that kind of thing, or even music that was originally on vinyl, where the hole in the middle of the record wasn't quite in the middle, which was surprisingly common back in the day. And so even though the music was electronic, the beat just shifted a little bit as the needle got closer to the middle of the record. And by the end of a 5-minute song, a machine beat grid might be slightly out, enough out to mess up all these features we're talking about. So the software had what was called flexible or elastic beat gridding, where at first, you as the user could just say, oh, hang on, this is shifting a bit. And you could say, no, you've got to correct it a bit. You've got to move it forward or back a bit. And you could go through the song doing that. But then the software got a little bit better and became able to actually make these guesses for you a little bit to a certain extent. And that is kind of where we were at until maybe a couple of weeks ago. Because a couple of weeks ago, it all changed. DJ Pro, which is a DJ software platform for primarily Apple platforms, so for Mac and iOS, but also it's on Windows and Android. DJ Pro introduced this feature that was clearly AI driven, because this feature was properly listening to the music in the AI version of how we listen to it. And it was pretty much not missing a trick. And so suddenly this software could see where sneaky bars of music had been inserted to make breakdowns more dramatic, or where I always call it the Come On Eileen test. Yeah, Come On Eileen by Dex's Midnight Runners, where it slows down and then speeds up again and slows down again. And this software gridded that song perfectly. So if you can get songs like that right, suddenly you've got software that doesn't need the DJ to do anything ahead of time. It just gets it right. And not very long after that, like within a week or so, another piece of DJ software called DJ.Studio, which is a little bit different to all other DJ software in that it's designed to help you create mixes ahead of time. And then it will just kind of play that mix back. It's not live DJ software, but nonetheless, it also introduced basically a carbon copy of what was in the DJ Pro software. So now there's a couple of DJ platforms out there that can do the beat grids using AI. And really, as a DJ, you don't have to worry about it. It's just going to get it right. And that's quite exciting because you're getting all the benefits of these things. To remind you, the sync button, tight looping, cues, effects, you're getting all those benefits, but you're not having to do any of the extra work as well, which takes away one of the big downsides of this thing, the extra work required to check them. So as well as that, it makes it a lot easier for beginners, because beginners can start to rely fully on the features of the software that otherwise DJs who were veterans and DJs who remembered the old ways would kind of suck the air through their teeth and say, you can't do that. What happens if you press the button and it goes wrong? Well, guess what, Grandad? It ain't going to go wrong anymore. AI has truly solved it. By the way, I say that firmly tongue in cheek because I might not be a granddad, but hell, I'm old enough. It's really, really exciting because it lowers the barriers of entry to new DJs because the DJ software is going to become, by a massive leap, a lot more reliable than it ever was before. So I think this is quite exciting. But I think what's really exciting, and yes, Beatgridding's on the way out. Now, let's put a proviso on this. DJ software is not the best in the world. It's not the best in class. When you look at, like, say, video editing software or photo editing software, DJ software is not the best when you compare it to the best in other areas of digital, digital creativity, if you like. So it does take a while to get good at these things. Traktor, which is a big DJ platform, if you're an uninitiated person, is still on Beatgridding 1.0. It really is. It's a long way behind. And the others are kind of like firmly 2 point something. No one, apart from the two platforms I've mentioned, has got anywhere close to this, what we're calling Beatgridding 3.0. So this isn't going to happen instantly, but it will happen. And this kind of thing, I think, is where it gets really exciting. If the software can literally see everything about the track and get the beat grids completely correct, and then it can do other things as well. And the one I think it's going to do, which is going to change the game, is it's going to actually suggest transitions based on the musical content of the songs. And so now we're going to have the software saying, why don't you mix this one here? Why don't you mix this one here? I want to play this next. Why don't you do it like this? Or at least it'll give you a default and you can use it, or you can go and do your own thing. It's going to make it even easier. And I think that it's going to get very, very good at that stuff, because just in the same way that ChatGPT is trained on the internet, right? This is really funny because obviously we all use AI, right? We've all played with AI. And ChatGPT, when it comes to DJ stuff, there aren't that many sites that talk about DJing, and a lot of sites just steal the stuff that people like us do, and they just regurgitate it for, Amazon affiliate links and stuff. And so the actual genuine new original information in the area of DJ learning is quite scarce out there. So if you type into ChatGPT questions about DJing, you very often find I literally see our own words reflected back at her. So it's quite funny. But look, the same technology that goes around the web reading everything that's on the web and giving it back to you as AI content is also listening to what's going on the web, and we'll be listening to DJ mixes and we'll be saying, okay, I figured out how that mix worked, and I guarantee you that the software will be suggesting transitions that it has heard DJs doing out there to you when you ask it, well, how do I mix the next tune in? This stuff is all coming, which is, it's exciting. I think it's exciting. Remember, you will not be replaced as a DJ by AI. You will be replaced, if anything, by a DJ who's figured out how to use AI. So make sure that DJ is you. Right, so that's the death of Beatgridding. Terence on our live chat, we've got students with us here, says pretty soon people won't need DJs to play music for them. Well, I think they will, because the thing is, no one apart from you knows best what to play next. An AI is not in the room feeding the vibe. It can't do that. It's not human. So anything that makes it easier for you to play the right song next, I'm totally down with it. I think it's cool. It opens the way for services like Spotify to auto mix. I disagree with you. I think they can read the floor just by the playlist of everyone in the audience combined with their exact positioning on the floor, says ATGR. Well, that's very interesting, but I don't think that. I always give this example. I was going clubbing every weekend, probably twice or three times a weekend for many years when I was in my early 20s. And house music was extremely big in the UK at that time. No AI would have dropped Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit on a house dance floor. But I did. And I wasn't the only DJ to do that. It became a bit of a thing to suddenly play a huge rock record in the middle of a house set. So look, the unexpected is the thing that us humans have got over AI, and I believe we'll always have it over AI. But I think you're right. I think there'll be, the worst end of DJing, the predictable end of DJing, the boring end of DJing, AI will be able to do. But as I said, we need to rise above it. We need to use the AI to do stuff that the AI can't do. Another way of looking at this is let AI get you 80% of the way there, and then you take it the extra 20%. So It's a debate that rolls on and on. Some people think AI is going to spell the end of DJing, and some people don't. But let us know what you think if you're with us live. And if you're not with us live, then you come over and let us know what you think on the Digital DJ Tips Facebook page. We'd love to chat to you, as we always do, about these things. So Atom says DJ Judge Jules used to bring out his trumpet to play over the music, and AI wouldn't have the human soul to do that. That's a very good point. Right, so thank you very much to the students who are with us on this recording for your comments there. As always, interesting. The final one then on this subject is from Javier. He's taking it back to where we started here, which is just beatgridding, who says, as a vinyl DJ from the early 80s and as a funk and disco music lover, this is great news. No more hours of gridding 80s music, but I do love mixing myself with properly gridded tracks. So thank you very much for that. So our second topic today here on Inside Track from the Digital DJ Tips DJ School is audio engineering for DJs. Now we're talking about this because iZotope has just released RX11. So RX11 is an audio engineering suite. It's an audio processing suite of tools that's used by Hollywood producers to improve dialogue, to music makers, all kinds of people who have to work creatively with audio use tools like RX11, which I say has just come out, which is why we're talking about this now, to do stuff to audio, to do stuff to digital audio. And it can be really across the board, from ripping old vinyl, which is obviously a very good use of this technology for DJs, ripping old vinyl and then tidying it up, you know, getting rid of the pops and crackles and scratches and so on, all the way to nowadays with this software, extracting the vocals or the drums, kind of doing a very rough re-edit because they have STEM engineers now in all the big recording studios who are just doing this stuff. They're just taking the finished versions of songs from the catalogue and doing quick remakes on them without going any further than using the kind of technology that you find in this audio stuff. So this kind of software like RX11, but also things like Adobe Audition, and there's plenty of tools that let you do things like this, is established. It's been around for a long time. But why should DJs need to use this kind of thing? We just buy songs, don't we, and put them into our DJ software. Surely DJ software is hard enough to conquer without having to think about other software as well. Why would we want to work with audio and audio files away from our DJ software? Well, it turns out there's lots of reasons. And it turns out that just a little bit of work in this area as a DJ will give you some tools which will serve you well as a DJ, whether it's just a hobby or whether it's a full career. So let's talk through a little bit why, and maybe a little topic of interest that you might want to take away and have a go at the end of this. So it's a bit like, and I always say this tongue in cheek, it's a bit like learning about cleaning your records, right? We were talking about vinyl a minute ago. If you're a vinyl DJ, yes, you put your records on the turntable and you drop the needle onto them and you play them, but you also know how to clean them, or I hope you do. And you also know how to change the cartridge and the needle and how to set up the record player so it plays properly and all that stuff, which is about kind of the music before the audience hears it. It's about getting the physical in that instance, but nowadays the digital side of the music sorted, the techie stuff sorted. And so there's loads of reasons why you're going to want to do this. So let me just run through a few of them for you. Let's say you've got an audio file that was ripped for you by someone and it's got a load of silence at the start and the end. Now you don't want that. You don't want to be loading this file and you have to go forward half a minute to find the actual music. So to be able to quickly load that file into an audio editor and just take that silence off the beginning and end, it's a really good idea. We've already talked about ripping vinyl, but let's go back to that audio file that you've taken the beginning and end off, which it could be a vinyl rip. It could be something that someone's given to you. By the way, a vinyl rip is just when you play a record into your computer and then you've got the digital take on it. So there's a very, very commonly used process called normalizing. And normalizing turns the volume up on a piece of music as loud as possible without it distorting, right? So it's literally that. So if you've got quite a quiet music file And what happens with quiet music files is if you DJ with them, you've got to turn them up every time you play them, which can be annoying. And also the wave forms, which is the physical representation of the file in your DJ software, they look a bit flat. They don't look as big and punchy. So for all these kinds of reasons, just knowing how to normalize an audio file in an audio editing piece of software is a very simple and easy thing to do. We've already talked about extracting stems. And so the big one would be the acapella. You want to take the acapella out of something to DJ with it. Probably a good idea to do it ahead of time rather than relying on possibly varying features of quality in your DJ platform. And a lot of DJ platforms don't even let you do this as you're DJing. So being able to do that requires the use of audio software. Things like tidying up your DJ mixes. So you record a DJ mix and you realize that a couple of the tracks, you were a bit enthusiastic. They came in a bit loud. So you want to change them. Or you realize one of them was quite bassy, so you want to take the bass out of it. This stuff is all pretty easy to do if you learn how to use audio editing software. This is all basic audio engineering. And things like making your own DJ drops. Let's say there's some dialogue in a film you want to extract to make a humorous DJ drop for your mixes or whatever. This software can help you to do that. But there's another area, which I'm just going to touch on briefly, which is not actually processing and playing with audio before you want to use it, but it's what happens to audio when you're playing it. So you look, there's a lot of different ways of DJing nowadays, and some of them are involving you taking the audio from your DJ system and doing something with it. A classic one is if you want to live stream. If you want to live stream, you've got to get that audio from your DJ gear into your live streaming software and out to the internet. How are you going to do it? Audio software will help you to do that. Special software that lets you route your audio around, sometimes inside your laptop, in order for that to happen. Or you want to record your DJ set, but you're using a streaming platform, a subscription platform like Tidal or Beatport. They won't let you do that. You can't just hit the record button in your DJ software. So you need to know how to route that out of your DJ software into some recording software on your laptop. That's one way of doing it. In order to do that, you need to understand a bit about audio engineering, audio routing. So there are loads of reasons why, as a DJ, it really is a good idea to learn some basic audio engineering techniques and software. Now, I'm going to mention a bit of the software now. I'm also going to mention a few processes, and I'm going to give you a little project that you might want to look into if you think, you know what, you're right, I'm going to go away and have a go at this. A piece of software that is totally free that I recommend anyone who does anything digitally with music go and get immediately is called Audacity. As in, you've got the audacity to say something like that to me. It's called Audacity. Go and stick it into a search engine. It's free. You can download it. You can load audio into it, and you can do pretty much all the things I've been talking about here with it, apart from audio routing. So Isotope, that got us onto this, is currently up to RX11. That's more about audio processing, although it overlaps heavily with Audacity. Adobe Audition is certainly the paid for version of Audacity, if you like. It's a very, very popular piece of software among professionals that effectively is the licensed version of something that Audacity will give you a good take on for free. So if you want to do live streaming, you'll find that there's audio editing features in something like OBS, which is the software that people tend to use because, again, it's free to do live streamings. That's OBS. You can go and type that into a search engine as well. Open Broadcaster Software is what that actually stands for. When it comes to audio routing, as in how do you move the audio from one app to another inside your computer to record it or to live stream it or whatever, if you're a Windows user, go and look at VB Audio, vb-audio.com. They've got lots of apps in there that are very, very popular with podcasters and with DJs that like to live stream and so on. If you're a Mac user, look at the Rogue Amoeba. Weird name for a company, yeah? Rogue Amoeba company. They have software like Loopback and Audio Hijack that lets you process and route audio around inside your Mac. And of course, if you're a DJ producer type, your digital audio workstation is a classic place to start using all those platforms, as in Ableton, FL Studio, Logic Pro, and so on. So, a few of the processes that you will want to investigate. Take a look at things like compressors, limiters, gates, EQ, and all of these things are going to be enhanced massively by AI versions that are on the, I've seen them already coming on the market. So for instance, the classic way to make something like this here, right? I'm talking to you now. If I go quiet, hopefully the whole show will go quiet, will go dead, right? Listen. And that's even though we've got fans on the equipment, we've got the air conditioning on and so on. That is an AI I've got running on this. It knows the difference between my voice and the background. Now, we used to use a gate to do that, but this AI is just better at it in real time, taking it out. These AI tools are going to get very, very good. So look for AI ways of doing this over the coming weeks and months because they're coming. But look, compressors, limiters, gates, EQs, these are all the kinds of things that you're going to want to learn a little bit more about if you're interested in improving your mixes and that kind of thing. And one thing I think would be a good thing to try, there's a couple of things that would be a good thing to try, but one thing I think would be to record a DJ mix that you play on your DJ software, but try and do it in something outside of your DJ software. Maybe if you do subscribe to a streaming service, to Tidal or Beatport or something like that, do a mix with their music that it won't let you record on the DJ software. Figure out how to do that away from your DJ software. And when you have, go and try and make that mix sound better using some of the things we've talked about. Normalize it at the very least and work out how you can maybe correct some of the things that don't sound so good in it using audio editing software. You could do the whole thing in Audacity, which is what I have mentioned that you should go and have a look at because it's free. If you really want to take it further, take a look at our course on making mixtapes over on Digital DJ Tips. Go and find that on our courses page where we talk you in a lot of depth about doing this in Audacity. But you don't need to go grab that course. You can certainly have a play yourself. So let's go back to some of your comments about this because I saw lots of them coming in. This is from Apostolis, who said, in your news piece on Digital DJ Tips about Isotope and about RX11, you mentioned possible future integration with Traktor. Is this based on personal guess or rumors? It's based on personal guess. So Traktor software, funnily enough, I was talking about Traktor, wasn't I? Because Traktor is one of those platforms that's certainly dragging its heels. Dragging its heels, can you say that? You can certainly say dragging its feet, can't you? It's certainly slow when it comes to new features. But Isotope and Traktor are now both owned by Native Instruments, the same company. So you would think they're talking to each other, and you would think that means that some of those great features from Isotope, and I'm thinking stems in particular, as you are, Apostolis, would be coming to that platform. Anyway, let's wait and see. I use audio engineering, says Benedict, to create stuff that allows me to stand out from the crowd. Yeah, I mean, you can create edits very easily. You can create versions of songs that no one else has got very easily this way as well. So thank you for a couple of you for pointing out that VB Audio's tools are available for Mac OS too. Thank you for that. And Phil says Logic Pro, which is one of the DAWs, one of the digital audio workstations we were talking about, like Ableton, like FL Studio, has got stems built in now, stems processing built in. It's even got instruments that can be played for you by AIs. Wow, you could have an AI band playing for you inside your audio software. Classic stuff. I love it. So I'm going to move on now to our third topic, and thank you very much again, students here with me as we record this, for your comments. I'm loving seeing what you've got to say about these topics. Audacity is great, says Mike, indeed. Right, so our final topic today in Inside Track is motorized jog wheels. Platters that spin round on your DJ gear. I mean, look, go back a generation and everything spun round because it was turntables, wasn't it? But then CDJs came along, which now are the only thing you find in pro DJ booths. They don't spin round. The second they arrived, the idea of having something spinning on your turntables went out the door. Because why? Why would you need it? Ultimately, you're playing digital music files and they don't need a needle to be pulled through a groove in order for anything to happen. And so the first CDJs, the first DJ CD players arrived. And actually, funnily enough, the very first ones did spin around, but then very quickly they didn't. They realized that no one needed it. And it kind of died a death, but didn't quite go away, like with so many of these things. So jog wheels that spin around like record decks, but that actually are attached to DJ controllers that are controlling digital music are what we're talking about today. So yes, they exist, and the reason we're talking about it is that there's a new DJ controller that has been heavily rumoured, and I can confirm to you does exist because I have one right here in the studio, called the Rain Performer, is coming out, and it's basically the Rain 4 controller, which didn't have spinning jog wheels, which is a controller for a piece of DJ software called Serato. The Rain Performer is that controller, but with motorized jog wheels on it, spin round. Now these jog wheels usually have real vinyl. In other words, the thing you touch is a real record. It won't have any music on it, but it's made of the same material. And underneath the record, a real slip mat. And the slip mat is what makes it easy to manipulate the record, because it slips between the record and the spinning platter underneath. And the spinning platter is normally driven by very powerful, or to use the technical term, high torque motor, which means that whatever you do on the top with your hand, generally the motor will just carry on underneath regardless, because it's powerful enough to kind of push away, which gives a quite pleasing pull on your hand as you're playing with it, which is going to be the first thing I want to talk about when we ask the question, if they're not needed, why do they still exist? And it's not just the Rain Performer. There's loads of them out there. There's loads of different manufacturers that still have equipment that does this. So I think there's 5 reasons. The first reason is it feels more authentic to vinyl DJs. If you came from a vinyl background, then having something that feels just like what you're used to, it feels like alchemy. It feels like magic. And so yes, you don't have to have a spinning platter to control DJ software, because when you press the play button, the DJ software will start to play the track, and then you can manipulate it in a very clever way with a platter that doesn't actually spin around. But to have one that does, it just feels so nice if you've ever played on vinyl. I mean, it is, as I say, it feels like a kind of magic. It's like alchemy. And so you really don't want to let that go once you've played with it, I would say. It's certainly in the experience of a lot of DJs. So it certainly feels closer to real DJing if you have never played on vinyl. If you're a modern DJ that's just starting, you see, we've noticed something that's quite unusual and ironic, really, around the idea of what you want to DJ on if you are a new DJ. So DJs like me and my generation, we started with turntables. They were unreliable, they were expensive, the records jogged, the needles got dirty and the sound quality suffered, they needed very careful setup, etc, etc, etc. Then CDs came along, we're like, this is brilliant. Wow, we've got none of that anymore. Then digital music arrived, so we didn't have to go and buy music, we could download it from stores and so on. We're like, wow, this is amazing. Then DJ software arrived, so we could do it all on our laptop. We're like, this is brilliant. And then we were like, have you noticed you can do this on a phone now? So now we're sat in our back garden with a portable speaker and a beer in our hand, DJing all night long on our phones, saying how this has developed, how this has changed. Ha, we remember the old days. But new DJs, they go in reverse. They start with their phone and think, oh, this is great, but I'd love a little bit of equipment to control this. And then they think, you know what, the phone's too small. Can I plug this bit of equipment into a laptop? And then they think, DJs don't seem to be using laptops in the pro DJ booths. What are they using? So then they buy standalone DJ gear that doesn't need a laptop. And then we get them saying to us here at the school, I think I'm ready to try real turntables now. And what's it like DJing on vinyl? So people are actually going backwards, back to the source, if you like. They're going back upstream where we've paddled downstream, and we're like, oh, isn't it great down here in the in the estuary of high tech, and you want to go right back to the top, back to the source. And new DJs do have this pull of how it was done before and what it felt like. So whether you're a vinyl DJ who just wants to keep that, you're not interested in moving on to doing it on all the other technology that's available now, or you're a new DJ, then there's cases to be made for both types of DJ wanting something that spins, really. So obviously the third type of DJ is going to be scratch DJs, because scratching is just something that's always been done on spinning platters. So it feels more like scratching. Now we have got the first, still the best, often copied, never equaled course on DJing on controllers, called, unsurprisingly, Scratching for Controller DJs, which takes DJs on controllers all the way from their first little baby scratch all the way up to DMC standard with Angelo and Rasp, who are our two tutors at that high end of the course. We've got the course that teaches you to do it all on controllers. So I can tell you for certain you don't need to use a spinning platter to scratch. However, there's a strong case that it's more fun if you do. So Scratch DJs is the third type of person who might want this, and the third case why they're still made. So 4 and 5 are a little bit more, you have a wry smile on your face when you share these, because they're true and you wonder why they're true, but they are. So number 4 is it looks better to audiences. So I had a really high-end wedding planner, right? This is the kind of people that if you've got a lot of money, you just give the money to them and they do everything about your wedding. So you're not integrating with the people doing the flowers or the cake or the DJs or whatever. You just get the wedding planner to do it all, right? And this wedding planner said to me, I have 2 DJs I use for weddings. I can't remember their names, but DJ number 1 uses a modern DJ thing that plugs into his computer. This is her words. He's really, really good and he does a great job. DJ number 2 has got proper DJ gear with proper record players. And when the person booking me to do their wedding has got more money, I always book DJ number 2. So I said to her, which one is the best DJ, would you say? And she said, they're both really good. I've got no preference. So she's booking and paying more money to a DJ that is using something that spins. Why? Because it just looks better to audiences. I'm not here to say that's right or wrong, but it does, and audiences seem to give more respect to DJs using spinny things. Crazy, eh? And number 5 kind of builds on that. If you're a live streamer, then you will know, and if you've done this on Twitch for a while, you will know that the way to keep people on your stream is to keep it looking interesting. One of the easiest ways of keeping a stream looking interesting is when you've got a camera on your decks, something is happening. Nothing looks more boring than a controller sat there doing nothing when there's music playing. If you've got stuff spinning around, it just looks better, which is another reason to consider this. Right, so there's some advantages to using spinning platters, even though you don't have to. What are the disadvantages? So the disadvantages are obvious. They are weight. These things weigh a lot. They're big. There's no such thing as a small spinning platter controller, apart from, funnily enough, the Traktor Control S4. We've mentioned Traktor a lot today, utterly by coincidence, which is a DJ controller that does have spinning platters, but they are really small and they're quite unusual because they don't even try and look like turntables at all. They just go round. But anyway, apart from that outlier, they're all quite big and heavy. They're all expensive. Of course they are. They've got powerful motors built into them and they're all complex. There's a lot more to go wrong with this kind of gear, frankly. And also, they're harder to use. I'm here to tell you they're harder to use. One of the problems is when you press the play button, doesn't matter how good the motor is, it takes a while to get up to speed. So there are various ways that these systems kind of get around that. Some of them you can have instant start. So even when the platter's taking a while to get up to speed, it will just ignore that and it will just start as if it started absolutely instantly when you press the button. But that is deviating from what turntables really do in real life. So you're kind of introducing kludges and you're introducing compromises on those systems. So yes, it is very, very close to what turntables felt like back in the day and what they still feel like. I suppose a good way of ending then is to say Pioneer DJ has kind of come all the way around because they've got a turntable that I know has been a success because DJ Jazzy Jeff, one of our tutors, talks about them and uses them, called the CRSS12. And the CRSS12 is actually a turntable. You can actually play records on it. But also, you can plug it into your DJ software and control your DJ software as if it was the jog wheel part of a DJ controller, and it's got buttons on to help with that and so on. So it's a real hybrid between the two. And maybe that's the ultimate one to go for. That kind of squares the circle and rounds it off and takes it all back to the beginning. And guess what? They're not very cheap. So ATGR says the CRSS12 is great. I think I'm going to pick up a pair this weekend. The more complicated and high-tech things look, the better people think you are, says Ray. Ain't that the truth, Ray? Terence is giving love to the CRSS12s as well. So Benny says, I remember in the 80s carrying crates. I have a big selection of music that fits on an external SSD drive and weighs nothing nowadays. A definite improvement. So Ash is saying, I agree, the crowds love this stuff. Denon Prime's motorized, so Denon DJ has got a motorized deck that you can get, are a great thing. The crowds love them. So for weddings and company gigs as well, they just look the part. Thank you for sharing that. And if you remember, Phil, says Terence, I do, carrying records was so cumbersome. I'll never go back to that way since digital is much easier to use. And so I want to leave you with a story now about carrying records. When I played at the nightclub Privilege, used to be called Coup in Ibiza, they had, at the time I played there, I think they've still got it now, a DJ booth set up in the middle of their swimming pool. Hey, Ibiza. And they had this kind of like gangplank. It was just a plank of wood that went from the side to the DJ booth. And so the DJ had to walk across this plank to get into the DJ booth and play. Now I was DJing there in the main room and I had my records, but I only had one box, right? So imagine how heavy a box of records is. So I was carrying a box of records, walking in front of thousands of clubbers along a gangplank with water on either side of me, utterly unbalanced, right? I didn't even have two. You know, when you're carrying your shopping, I don't know about you, but if I'm carrying my shopping home, I pack 2 bags with the same amount in each bag, so at least I'm balanced when I'm walking. I had it all in one hand. I've never been so nervous in my life. I really haven't. I'll never forget that moment. So there we are. And that's where we're going to leave it there for this time. I do hope you've enjoyed this. And if you have, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcasts. If you're interested in having a question answered on one of these shows, then you need to be a Digital DJ Tips student. And that's a very easy thing to become. Head to digitaldjtips.com, browse our plethora of courses, find something for you, sign up, and we will let you know how you can have your question featured and be there for the recording of one of our podcasts. For now, though, all that's left for me to say from the studio here is thank you for listening. Get good, get out there, make the moments, and see you again next time.